I wanted to create something special. I wanted to create a really awesome CW key for you guys and myself. So I partnered up with my friend Aaron. He owns Modern Morse. And together we have created what we're calling the QRZombie key. It is this guy right here, a beautiful, bright, kind of toxic waste green. I wanted blood splatter on this. So I personally splattered blood, it's not really blood, on every single one of these. And I wanted a skull on it. So we got a skull, and each one is individually serialized with QRZombie on the back, laser etched. Aaron is gonna walk us through the entire process of making these exact keys, but also how he makes all of his other keys too. So we're gonna do that this time on Ham Radio Tube.
First step, get 12-foot lengths of bar. I bandsaw them to the correct length, and then we'll take them over and put them on the fixture. Next, we take the material from the bandsaw, we bring it over to this fixture. I designed these fixtures because they're quick swappable into the machine, and I can make 4 sets of arms at each station. I've already got these stations loaded, but we take our raw stock, we drop it into the pit bull clamp, we'll tighten down that screw, and then this will be ready to go into the machine. We use pole studs from 5th Axis Machining. This allows it to align into our fixture, so I get repeatability each time I drop one of these pallets in. So now the machine knows where it is every single time. Pallets in, it's tightened in place, close the doors, and we'll pull up the program and hit go. I'm gonna go over to graphics, and I'm just gonna confirm that it is the right program. It's actually drawing the program on the screen for me. That's all the tool paths that are gonna cut. So that is the right program I'm looking for. So I'll go ahead, feed hold, reset, back to program, and we'll hit start. Now when it runs, I'm just gonna leave the coolant off so you can see the first cutting path. So right now I'm using a 1/4-inch end mill that's got 3 flutes on it, and I'm doing the roughing passes on each one of the arms for the op1. So we're cutting in and roughing in all the main features that we need. And then we'll come in and we'll actually drill the holes for the bearing pin posts, and we'll actually drill and tap in the same operation on the machine. So we'll make the threads and everything in this operation. Overall, for that entire pallet, it'll take about 30 minutes or so to run through everything. But this one will take about 5 minutes, and then I'll do a tool change to an 1/8-inch end mill. Then we'll be able to go in and start picking out some of the smaller features we need to for some of the tighter curves that are on the arms. So we just went through with a carbide 3mm drill and plunged all those holes in. And that's what the pins will go in that are supported by the bearings. We just got done running this pallet. So we're gonna unbolt it, pull the pallet off, bring it over to my workstation, and we're gonna remove all these parts, and we're gonna move these parts to the next station and move these parts to the station after that. And we'll run the pallet again. So as you can see here from left to right, we have the different process. So we start with raw stock, 1/2-inch material, 6061 aluminum, and then we machine the operation 1 where we do rough in the profile and add all the tapped holes and the bearing pin holes. And then we do the back sides where we cut off this carrier plate. And then the last operation, the parts get turned sideways, and we do the magnet press fit holes and the M2 screw holes and the M3 hole for the contacts. We do this on all these different fixtures. So we start with raw block, and then we go to op1. We do all the bearing pockets, all the M3 tapped holes, and the little clearance area for the magnets. And then we actually have these little set screw holes here. Those are actually M2, very tiny threads there. But it's got this carrier plate on the back. So we actually flip it over in this fixture up here. This fixture will go into the machine. We drop it in. You can see that carrier plate, and that gives me access in order to machine all that off and then add the magnet holes and the other features in the back. And then we end up with this part here. So we machine the back off, and then we add on all these extra features. And now we have a complete chassis ready to get tumbled and then sandblasted and Cerakoted. Over here we have the tops. So I actually do these on a larger sheet, and I do about 9 at a time. You can see on the back, that's rough stock, and there's these little tabs there. So we actually are gonna go through and remove all those tabs, deck it down flat, so we get a nice machine finish, and this is a complete finished one here. And then these are the finger pieces. I cut those out of 1/8-inch aluminum 6061 sheet, and I can do that in one operation. Yeah, you can see that right here. So I'll do a batch of those all at one time. And then those actually, I hand sand off the tabs so I can do this in one operation. And then these actually get put into, they all get wires holding them all together, and then we put them into the tumbler, and they go in the tumbler for several hours. This is my 6 cubic foot vibrating tumbler. So if you look inside, I've got this media in here, and this is like a composite media. And this, I'll end up putting the parts in here. I drop the finished parts in, and this will actually deburr any of the edges that still have sharp spots. And then we fire it on, and it'll actually circulate these parts through for several hours. The arms that we just machined, I'm gonna put them onto some thin wire that holds them all together just so I don't lose them in the sandblaster. So these have come out of tumbling, and now we're gonna sandblast them, which is the first process we have for Cerakoting. All right, so we're done sandblasting. Now we'll take these parts, and now that they've been sandblasted and etched, we're gonna go put them onto the threaded rod trees and get them ready for the next step to Cerakote them red. Okay, so now that we've got them out of the sandblaster, I'm gonna put them onto this M3 threaded rod, and this just allows me to hold onto the parts while I'm Cerakoting. So I will thread these on here. I'll tighten them down with a little set screw, and then these will be ready to go into a fixture to hold them, and then I'll be for Cerakoting and curing. And then 3 hours later, we'll end up with a finished one that's already been Cerakoted. These will be the red ones for Mike's keys. Part of the Cerakote process, we actually put these little plugs in, and that keeps Cerakote out of the pinhole that we're gonna use, because I don't wanna have to ream that out later. So we gotta knock those pins out. So I have a little fixture here, and I just use a little threaded rod, and I tap the pin out. And then it's gonna go into here, and this is actually just kind of a 3D printed fixture that I'll use to organize all my parts. And then we're gonna go through and we're gonna add the magnets. We'll add all of the contacts, all of the contact set screws, and all of the arms. So now these are the finger pads that are gonna go onto the arms. They've already been tumbled. So if you notice that the 3D print makes it to where I can only put, there's left and right version. And so it makes sure that I only put the left version in, the left one. So now that we have the finger pieces in, we'll take a little M2 screw and we'll drop it into each hole and screw it down. And there's 2 per arm. So I use little M3 grub screws with flat tops on it, and these are actually the contacts that are making the electrical connection in the center right here inside the arms. So that's actually making connection back to the PCB. So we will place those in that hole and that hole, and then we have a little grub screw that goes into the side that kind of just provides a little bit of friction on them so that they don't back out. And I just put them in where they're just flush with the other side. So I'm just gonna use this top as a fixture. So these are the pins that actually go into the arms and hold in the bearings. And I actually, if you look on here, we actually grind a little flat onto them so that way the grub screw that holds in actually can hold on tighter to the part. So you don't want a round part with a grub screw tapping into it. So we kind of like grind a little keyway into there. And then we drop the part on. This way we get the correct depth that we want. And then we're gonna use a little tiny M2 to set the pin in place so it doesn't move. So I've got one of the magnets that actually we use instead of like little springs, we actually use magnets for the repulsing force to recenter the arms. And they have a north and south pole, so I just use a little polarity tester here to make sure that I have south facing down on this arm. So I'll take this, I'll place it in here, and then I've got a pair of pliers, and I'll just grip it and press the magnet into the hole. So we're gonna use Cerakote, which is a 2-part epoxy, like thin film ceramic coating. I use that instead of anodizing because I like the color options and consistency, and I can do it here in the shop. And I think it adds a little more resiliency to the product itself instead of just painting. So we already picked out colors that we're gonna mix actually these 2 colors together to make the toxic green, and we'll have red for the arms. This is actually Firehouse Red. And I use a gram scale, and then I use a beaker, and I usually dedicate 1 beaker to each different color that I'm gonna do so I can just reuse it each time. We actually have to measure out down to plus or minus 2 or 3 grams, and then we have to add the hardener, depending on how much we're actually mixing up, determines how much hardener we use. And then we're going to use an Iwata LPH80 as our spray gun for doing the application process, which we'll do here in a second. Spray booths are really expensive, and since this is just kind of a part-time thing that I'm doing for this, I actually thought of the idea of grabbing a grow tent off of the internet, and this thing was only, you know, under $200. I built it up. It has air vents on them, and then I also have special fan and carbon filters that I use because this process produces a lot of toxic fumes. So inside of here, I actually also have a resin 3D printing station where I'm experimenting with some resin 3D printing for some other hobby stuff. And then back here, this is actually next to the carbon filter. You can see all the different colors that I've been doing. I'll come back, I'll do a test pattern, and then I'll actually do all the application. And then I'll bring it over here to the oven, and this is where actually we'll do all the curing. Most of the Cerakotes require a 2 to 3 hour cure cycle, and that's what takes a lot of time on that. So I try and plan it at the end of the day that I'll make parts and then do the Cerakoting, and then while it's curing, I get to go home. So once we pull these out and they're cured, then we'll go to laser engraving. So now we're in a separate part of the building that we have, and this is actually our surface mount pick and place line that we have. We've got this usually running to run some of our other products, but this right now, it's down for maintenance, but this is actually a silk screen. So this is actually where we put the solder mask in here, and it actually applies all the solder paste, and then it moves through a conveyor across to the second machine. And this machine over here, this is our pick and place machine, and we use 8mm feeders. You've probably seen videos of something like this before, but the board comes in, it uses computer vision, and it'll actually, if the board was placed right here, it would come in and actually place all the components, the connector and the switch onto there, and then it'll move from here over to, this is our manually placing station if we need to manually place anything. And then it goes into what I affectionately call the world's most expensive pizza oven, but it's a 17 stage infrared heating oven that'll actually bring the temperature up for the reflow process right to the point where the solder paste will reflow. And then at the end, when it cools off, we'll get finished parts that look kind of like this. So we end up with panels of the internal PCB. Okay, this is the last step in the assembly after we've done everything else. So we have the chassis, we have the top, we have the arms already pre-assembled, we have 2 sets of bearings, we have the magnet adjusters, the center isolator with the contacts, and the PCB that we showed you earlier. And then we have some assembly screws for the top. So we'll go through this one by one. So the PCB itself has a 1/8 inch connector jack on the back so that you can have a detachable cable, and then it runs the signal from the radio through to a switch. This switch we put in there so that you can change the polarity. So if you're left-handed or right-handed and you don't want to adjust it in the radio, you can adjust it on the key by taking the top off, flipping the switch. And then these are the 2 contact pads that'll make contact with the isolator, so you get continuity through each one of the finger pieces when you engage the finger piece. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in the 6mm bearings into each spot, and these are press fit / pushed in. So we actually just use a little coaxing hammer, and those will go in flush. Now we will put the magnet adjusters in. I'll feed the magnet adjuster in using the screw, and then I basically just back it in into place. And I'll usually set it about mid throw. I just put a little pressure on it to guide it in, and then I'll back it in about mid throw. And I adjust these usually at the end when I'm tuning the key before I ship them. That's in. Now the PCB will drop in, and it fits right into that back hole there. You can see that it's in there so that it's well supported. We'll use the small M3. We'll mount it in here. And get it just snug enough. Then we'll put the isolator in. This isolator has already been pre-assembled. We use a isolation material similar to like G10 or micarta, and then there's actually 2 M2 screws at the top, and those are actually the contactors. That's what the arms actually, when you swing them, that's actually what hits, and then that is the center screw that holds it in place. So we drop that in here, and it'll make contact with the PCB. And then we'll screw that in. This one we want to make just tight enough so that the M2s make contact with the pads below. Now we're ready to assemble the top. So for the top, we have 2 more bearings that we'll put in. One side is shielded, one side's not. So I always keep the bearing races on top at this view, and then we'll coax those in. Those are now in. And then we laser cut this in-house, and these are actually the acrylic tops, and they've got a protective cover, and I'll peel these back and install it. And then right before we do the final assembly, I'll peel off the last piece there so that there's no smudges or anything on it. So I'll just peel back a section on each side. And I mark these marks here, let me know which way it's supposed to go orientation-wise. Now that that's ready to go, I'll orient it down, put it in here, and this is actually a press fit as well. So I just get it started, and I just make sure that it's completely flush. And now we're going to be ready to put the arms in. Each key comes with 4 of these. And these are actually bearing isolators, so they only engage on the inner race, not the outer race. And so I'll place those onto the arms. I'll place the ones on the bottom first. I'll insert it into the key, and then I'll place one on top. That's in there. And then we just drop it right in. And now we have the first arm already assembled, ready to go. Here's the next one. Drop it on, put that arm in. And it's starting to look like a real key. Then we have the last bearing isolators that we're going to drop on to the top of the posts. And now the top's ready to go on. Then we'll add the last 4 M3 screws that sit flush in the top. And we have number 1 finished, and we'll add the magnets as the last step. Okay, so now we're ready to put the magnets in. I'm actually going to check the polarity with my polarity tester, and I want south facing down on every single key, and I'm just going to press that in there. And now it sits in there nice and flush. And I'll do that 3 more times. And there you go. That is the first number 001 QRZombie Modern Morse key for Mike, K8MRD.